So I'd love to just get right into it because we have such a great lineup today. I'd like you to help me welcome our guests. First up today, I would love to welcome Karenna Gore, Executive Director of the Center for Earth Ethics. Hello, Karenna, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Really delighted to be joining you all.
Well, what's great is to know how many friends you do have. Kathleen Murphy is here. She told me that she's friends, Sam Rasool's friend, Karen Campblin. People know you and love your work. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, next up, Ronnie Levin. Ronnie, how are you, Ronnie? A scientist, water and health faculty at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and a retired senior scientist at the EPA. How are you, Ronnie?
I'm great, and I'm thrilled to be here as well.
And it's Levin.
Thank you so much. Ronnie. I have
my what do you got on?
Summit t-shirt on, which you can't see.
Great, Ronnie. Good. I will see you at the summit. I'm sure you're great. EPA, we can't wait to hear all about water quality because water is life. So Ronnie, thank you for being here. And of course, our sponsor from Clean Virginia, we have Cassady Craighill here, Communication and Advocacy Director at Clean Virginia. How are you, Cassady?
Where are you? I'm here. I don't know if that means anything. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to hear from all the other speakers.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here too, and excited to hear what Clean Virginia has to say about this climate crisis and equity. So thank you so much. And we also have Karen Campblin here, co-director of the Green New Deal Virginia. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, looking good. Good to see you. And we're excited to hear about the Green New Deal. It is literally fun to hear it talked about daily now. Before it was like the word people didn't really want to talk about the Green New Deal. Now everybody's talking about the Green New Deal. So thank you for being here today. And then we have also our candidates in the room. We love to spotlight our candidates. It's not easy running for office. We know that. So we have Yasmin Gore here from HD 62. Well, Karen is bye Karen. And we have Randall Wolf here, HD 20. How are you, Randall?
I'm doing great. It's really exciting to be here and looking forward to joining the group in Harrisonburg next weekend.
Oh, I know. We're excited to meet up with you there. So Thank you for coming today. People will learn a lot about your race because things are probably heating up out by you for Virginia elections. So thank you, Randall. So happy. Awesome. So love to say to my team, thank you. This cannot happen without them. We have the show wizard, Robin Warner from Postcards Virginia, the big boss, ambassador of Buzz, Derek Calhoun. And we have also Rosemarie, who is our show tech out there. Thank you, Rosemarie, everybody. Savino, where's Rosemarie? All right, so what we want to do is get right to some business here, friends, in the room. So we're glad we have a captured audience because we want to talk briefly about the Women's Summit. It's part of our Friday Power Lunch because we have created an amazing opportunity for people to participate. Robin, do you want to bring it up on the screen? We'll go quickly through this because tomorrow we kick off July's special programming. We have such awesome virtual workshops coming up, and you could still buy a ticket for the price of just $20 to $40. You can buy a ticket to all the events and virtual workshops all summer long. So tomorrow, 9 o'clock, we will have Dory Scott opening up with a great poem because we have Monica Belton here talking about having conversations about race and humanities, and we are really looking forward to that. And we'll be talking about our trip to Harrisonburg tomorrow, so everybody understands what next weekend will look like as our second phase of the Women's Summit, Summer of Summits continues. Some of you that may aren't familiar with the Women's Summit, this is our 5th annual. We do this to create good trouble in Virginia, to get good people elected to office, and to talk about all the issues. So we have made a compact event that it's going to be like nothing before, as we said. And so you can go to the website and see the list of other workshops that we have. July 20th, we have Raising the Comfort Level, talking about reproductive rights with our sponsor, Planned Parenthood, Advocates of Virginia. And we will still continue with the other workshop with Demcast. I won't bore you going through all of them, but the one you won't want to miss is also on July 31st. We'll be talking about messaging with Kevin Boston Hill, how to simplify your message for any audience. So please join us. We have awesome content. And then also, if you're a candidate, I see some candidates in the room. Guess what we've done? We just brought all these resources to anybody running for office, and you can get into the social media amplification workshops we put together, and also call time. Everybody hates call time, but Deborah Rodman is going to do executive coaching for candidates. So look, these are great opportunities, and they're really simple. Just get a candidate ticket and you're in. So one thing I really want to talk about just quickly, we are heading to Harrisonburg next week. At the Hotel Madison, we have a block of rooms. Also at the Quality Inn, we have a group discount. Join us. Randall Wolf will be there. We have Jennifer Kitchen will be there. We'll have Bill Helsley is going to be there. Emily Scott is going to be there. These are candidates that are running for office. And of course, our Sarah Radcliffe is going to be there. They will enjoy meeting you. We're going to have beer at the Pale Fire Brewery on Friday night. Chris Hurst will be joining us there, along with all the different activists in the area. And then on Saturday, we are going to have the mayor kick it off. Deanna Reed will kick it off. And then if you can, you also see here, we have power breakfast at the brewery. We rent it all morning long. We won't be drinking beer in the morning. We'll just be drinking coffee, but we'll see about that. But Sam Russell will be doing a great workshop on power building for good, and Meredith Dean of Appalachian Women of Action will be doing a great program running for office in red rural districts. Who doesn't want to do that? And then followed with canvassing for the candidates and other phone banking opportunities. So come on, get your hotel. Let's have some fun together out in Harrisonburg. All right, enough of that. Let's move on to something very special. I'd like to call up also a friend, Melissa Hartman of RASAR, which RASAR stands for Resolutions Addressing Systemic and Structural Racism. Welcome, Melissa. We're here, we're here on a sad note, but today we are calling attention to a friend that we lost, and Arthuretta Holmes Martin passed away on July 3rd. And for those in the room that may know Arthuretta and loved her or don't know her, she was going to be a guest on the show. We were friends with her. I'm going to let Melissa talk about her and honor her. And then we have a short tribute that Robin has put together to honor her life. So go ahead, over to you, Melissa. Thank you for being here to honor our friend.
Thank you so much for providing the opportunity to do this. RASAR really appreciates what Network Nova is doing for us to recognize Arthuretta and all the work that she's done. Arthuretta had many, many talents and gifts that she shared with everybody. She was a mother, she was a friend, a singer, storyteller, a public servant. But where I got to know her was as an advocate for people that have been marginalized and oppressed. One of her greatest strengths, I found, was her ability to marry her advocacy passion with real practical action to get things done. And over the last few years, she's been a strong leader in Virginia's effort to get our state level legislature to first pass the House Joint Resolution recognizing racism as a public health crisis, and secondly, to codify the ongoing commission to study slavery and the subsequent discrimination as an advisory commission. Towards the end of 2020, beginning of 21, she founded RASAR, Resolutions Addressing Systemic and Structural Racism. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we continue these advocacy and education efforts to identify and eradicate systemic and structural racism. RASAR's work is going to continue on to honor Arthretta's vision and her energy and the legacy that she has left behind. She was and will always remain an amazing force for good change in this world. We will greatly miss our friend Arthretta, and again, are very appreciative to Network Nova for putting together this video that you're about to see.
Must change, nothing stays same. Everyone must change, nothing and no one goes unchanged.
Well, let me tell you about me. January 25th, 1972, I heard this call. This call came from a short black woman about this tall from the Caribbean. Her name was Shirley Chisholm, and she had decided she was going to be unbought and unbossed. Well, I was in the 7th grade, and I thought, I want to be just like her. I want to be just like her when I grow up. So throughout those years, I didn't hear too much about Shirley Chisholm in the classroom, but I sure did hear a lot about her on television and the news. And I saw how she would move 2 steps forward only to be pushed 2 or 3 steps backward until she finally had to let go of that dream of being president of the United States from her vision, January 25th, 1972. But I got hold of that energy, and I said, I'm going to be unbought and unbossed, and I'm going to be a public servant just like Shirley Chisholm. So I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. Black storytelling done sign my name. Whoa. I'm here to tell y'all a little bit about this girl, this little sassy one. They call her Sis Goose. Now,
my name is Mama Retta.
Blowing the whistle while black. Sort of sounds like riding your bike while black, flying while black, singing a song while black. I'm gonna be honest with you. There's absolutely nothing I can do without being black. Can't help myself. I know all about your frustration. I was only 9 years old when the 13th Amendment was passed that abolished slavery. My parents were free, but they were born enslaved. Right down there in Orange, Virginia. Everything changes. Each and every one of us changes. Everything that has life changes. Nothing remains the same. Everyone must change. And we must learn to embrace that change. But we must also know that the young will in fact become the old and mysteries unfold, because that is the way of time. But yet, sun lights up the sky, and hummingbirds, they do fly.
Robin, thank you for making that tribute. What a such a sad loss for the world, for Virginia, such a voice and such a special lady. Today they have her services in Alexandria, and if Melissa wants to put that in the chat. But you know, she continues, and her work continues through Razor and other initiatives. So let's keep her spirit alive and stamp out racism, call attention to it more than ever now. We know what's happening in Virginia, the opposition to talking about race and erasing history. So in that spirit, let's move over to getting down to some business with Luisa Boyarski, who is our news anchor for the show, telling us what we can do in Virginia and what's coming up with the elections and some calls to action. Welcome, Luisa. Hey, I'm in Columbus. just so you know. I'm not in.
Thanks, Catherine. And I'm not in Pittsburgh, but we would have been very close if I had been. Glad to hear that you are back visiting some family. It's always fun. So we have a lot going on in Virginia, but also with our Virginia delegation in Congress. So I'm going to cover both Virginia stuff and also one congressional call to action, because we have a lot going on. So the first thing is the Virginia legislature is coming back together for a special session, and that's going to be right at the beginning of August. They are still ironing out some of those details, so we're not exactly sure yet if legislators will be able to introduce budget amendments or not. And that will make a difference in terms of how much we can influence what's happening in that session. But right now, the best place to tell people about our priorities is the governor's office and his administration. So we have a call to action that's related to Barbara Favola's budget amendment. And what she is requesting is that the governor allocates elementary and second school relief funding, which is coming in under the America Rescue Plan, to upgrade failing roof and HVAC systems in Title I schools. And those Title I schools are the ones that are educating the poorest in our communities. This will also make the schools energy efficient. This innovative proposal is going to be offered during the special session, we hope, but the only way that happens is if it comes from the governor's office. So our call to action is that you guys help us contact Clark Mercer, who's in Governor Northam's office, and the Secretary of Commerce and Trade, Brian Ball. I'm going to put the details in the chat. Super easy to send them an email today, but please do so. They're the ones who are going to figure out what are those dollar amounts that are going to be on the recommended budget that comes from Northam's office. So we want to make sure that they hear from us and know that this is a top priority. Otherwise, there are lots and lots of other priorities, and there are a lot of people and a lot of lobbies who are going in there trying to make sure that their priorities get on the docket as well. So any help you can give would be fantastic. The next piece is that the Virginia Grassroots Coalition has just joined Deadline for Democracy Coalition. And that is a coalition that is working on all of those voting rights acts. And we're planning on sending a letter to Senators Warner and Kaine on Monday, asking them to use all of their abilities and resources to persuade all of the senators, including Manchin and Sinema, to reform the filibuster in order to pass the For the People Act before the August recess. It's really important that they hear from us. We want them to really play a lead role in this. Senator Warner a couple of days ago did tweet out saying he felt that these bills were very important. So we want them to know that we expect them to really be looking at adjustments to the filibuster as a way to make sure that these bills are passed. I will also put in the chat how you can check out our sign-on letter and sign on for your grassroots group if you're interested. Also related to democracy, there's going to be a Good Trouble candlelit vigil for democracy at Manassas Battlefield Park this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. And you are invited to come. It is in memory of Congressman John Lewis, and it's in support of the 2021 For the People Voting Rights Act. And I'm going to put more details on how to RSVP in the chat. And then finally, we did not forget about our candidates. As you know, it is election season, and we're very excited to have our grassroots groups hosting both some canvases and some fundraisers for our candidates. So just coming up over the next week, we have a canvass for Paul Seiker on July 17th, and I'll give you that information in the chat. We have a fundraiser for Brianna Sewell also on July 17th in the evening. And then we have a big birthday fundraiser for Josh Cole on July 30th. So lots of fun stuff. I'm sharing the things that will not overlap with the Women's Summit because we absolutely want you to participate in that as well. So all of that will go in the chat. If you have any questions, I'll put my email in there. Please feel free to reach out. Back to you, Catherine.
Who doesn't like birthdays? Josh Cole's big birthday. I'm all in for that. I hope we have a big cake for Josh.
I'm sure they will have something fun. We've got 3 or 4 grassroots groups who are partnering on this big fundraiser. It will be in person, and it is going to be at a host's house who I have heard always has a fantastic spread. So it should be lots of fun.
Is it in Arlington or is it in Fredericksburg?
I think it's closer up here, but
okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I love it. And I am excited to go to Harrisonburg. I hope everybody's coming. So first beer's on me, so that we'll see if that's in the budget. So excited today because I'm just so honored to have in the room, Karenna Gore is here. And as we said before, she's the director for the Center for Earth Ethics at the Union Theological Seminary. So welcome, Karenna. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Catherine.
No, I'm glad we had a little chitty chat today. You called, and I love because right before you called, I said Kathleen Murphy, the delegate, called me and talked about your mom. And here, you know, daughter of Al Gore. But your path to activism isn't so straight lined as people may think. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And we only have 10 minutes, but I'd love for people to give who you are and how you got to the work that you're doing now.
Oh, thanks so much. So I'm the founder and director of the Center for Earth Ethics at Union Theological Seminary. And basically, I grew up around talk about climate change. It was called global warming at first, and then climate change, now climate crisis, actually more often, because it was such a big part of my father's work. I myself didn't really go into it personally until midlife, mid-career. I was at Union Seminary. I went for a degree, and then I went and started work there. And It was the time when the Secretary General of the UN called the Climate Summit. And we were in the right place and time to convene religious and spiritual leaders to talk about climate and to reframe it as a moral issue and explore the moral and spiritual dimensions of climate change and to galvanize faith-based action. And so the center grew out of that. And that's where I come at it from.
No, I love that because I'll be honest, like lately, climate watching, knowing this when I'm 20 or 30 years ago, we talked about this, like how long ago we knew what was going to be happening today. And just that, just that frustration about action and the call for that. So I love how you frame it out as moral and spiritual. And you talk about what we'll have to do to kind of, do we adapt? How do we adapt to it at the same time? How do we make changes? So what are your thoughts on that as you look at what's happening? We just had this flooding in Europe that's just killed hundreds of people, the heating up, the drinking water issues. And here we are. And I feel like it's hard. It's really hard to deal with it. It's hard to even to accept it and watch it because you feel so powerless when you're looking at it. So what is your thoughts on that? Like when you, in your work and how you see how humans can approach this? It is overwhelming.
Indeed. Well, thank you for the question. And I want to say I do feel deeply connected to the state of Virginia. My mother's family is from there. I grew up largely in Arlington, in the house that my mother grew up in, that her mother grew up in, and that her grandfather built, and my brother lives in today. So we've got deep roots in Virginia. And I also just want to say to this group that even without that personal connection, Virginia is so important. Those of us that believe that politics, that government is still a source of the common good, have been watching and seeing and thrilled that the grassroots forces in Virginia have made such a difference in Virginia in the past years. And so I just want to say, deep bow of respect for those of you all behind that. And the way I see the climate crisis right now is, and as you said, there's massive flooding in Europe. There's been the heat waves. I've got a colleague who lives in Portland, Oregon, and a couple of weeks ago it was 112 degrees Fahrenheit.
Crazy.
It's not even normally hot at all in the Pacific Northwest there. And so we notice, we see, we feel these things. They're happening more often. They're happening with more severity, and it's no longer theoretical. I think the way I see it is we must look not just at the effects, but also at the cause. And so on one level, the cause is these two megatrends: the depletion and degradation of the natural world, including the carbon sinks, the forests and the soils, And the other mega trend is the pollution, mainly carbon emissions and methane that cause the heating effect that's changing the weather right now. I also think that we must do more to address both, and we can talk about exactly what that means in Virginia. I also think that data and science and technology are important, but they're not enough. This is about values, it's about belief systems, and it's also about perception and building public awareness and galvanizing public support for action is incredibly important. We know that more than half of the emissions that are up there right now went up in the past 25 years, which is the time that we've not only known the most about this, we've also had the most available alternatives. And we do have alternatives in terms of clean renewable energies and battery storage and energy efficiency. And it's just this legacy political power of an industry that wants to hold on. And finally, I would say we must look at this in terms of the morals and ethics, in terms of who's paying the price. What's the real cost? You know, there's a difference between price and value. And we have been so misled, you know, and I have a friend that says there should be 3 empty chairs in any room where there's a decision made. He's from the Church of Sweden, Henrik Grappa. 3 empty chairs in any room where decisions are made about climate and energy policy, one for the people living in poverty who are vulnerable and marginalized, one for future generations, and one for all non-human life. And when you think about it, it's because those are the 3 that have pay the highest price, are going to pay the highest price. We haven't paid attention. And so we're in this situation today. So we need to think about those 3 empty chairs. We need to look at the causes and not just the effects. No new fossil fuel projects is a big one. And that's not a fringe position. Even the International Energy Agency recently shocked people by coming out and saying that if we're serious about net zero emissions by mid-century, which is what we need to do if this doesn't get further out of control, if we're serious about that, the International Energy Agency said all countries must halt all new investment in fossil fuel projects. We need to clean up the mess and cap the leaks on the current ones and hasten the transition to clean renewable energy, stop energy waste through retrofitting and energy efficiency requirements. We need to incentivize regenerative agriculture. We need to protect forests. And we need to, and this is state politics specific decisions, like monitor and make good choices on investments that are controlled by the states and supply chains, and also do education. And we can talk more about the specifics of what that means, but I just want to say that environmental justice, I'm so glad you're focusing on that, and you've got such a fantastic other speakers here, so I don't want to go on too long about that, but it really is at the core. You know, Virginia is so important historically in our country. We're going through this reckoning. Who are we as a nation? When we look at the best of what brings us together, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, of course, you know, what we're reckoning with is that true for all people? Do we believe that to be true for all people? And when we look at where these toxic projects are placed, we see that there's racism, and we see that, in fact, you know, people are breathing toxic air, drinking toxic water in a way that, of course, does not give them those basic fundamental liberties that we know we want to protect. And so I believe that that the leaders, this fight will be won. It has to be fought in state legislators. Virginia is not just any state. It's very important, and I'm just really excited about what's going on. And of course, I'd love to talk specifically about the Mountain Valley Pipeline and other ways that people can take action.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now, I can tell you that things are really heating up around the pipeline, right? They stopped the one pipeline, the Mountain Valley, and I think it's the Atlantic Coast one that's still.
No, it's the reverse. The Atlantic Coast
reverse.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to see my friend Karen Campblin here, who I've worked with on these issues, who'll speak later. But Atlantic Coast Pipeline got stopped. The Mountain Valley Pipeline is very much
that's right. Okay.
And we do need folks to call to action on that, to talk to your delegates, but also to contact the EPA. You know, we know more about fracking now. We know that it's using forever chemicals that are very toxic to health. This just came out in a bombshell report. And and we know about the inequities in how it's placed. The EPA just came out and actually recommended that the MVP not receive a permit for a water crossing. But what we really need folks to do is to contact, the national EPA now under Michael Regan, to contact them and ask that request be elevated, so that our EPA does more to stop this project, which is unnecessary, harmful, and also a ripoff.
It's a ripoff.
It's
right.
Virginians are going to be paying for something that we don't need and don't want, is expensive, has already gone way overpriced. And so it's really actually a great opportunity to take leadership. And I'm happy I'm going to be speaking tomorrow, actually, on Wall Street in a small rally and press conference about the financing behind Mountain Valley Pipeline and other new gas projects, and really trying to take off the veil and make sure that the right thing is done for the people of Virginia.
Yeah, no, I agree, because that's like you said, the cost is really kind of an interesting discussion about this, because, some political parties there's one political party that denies climate is a problem, and that's unfortunately the Republican Party has stood by this climate denier stance, and which has really obviously put us and people in harm and danger. But in the other sense, though, the interesting thing about it, they're still paying for it in the budgets they pass every year, because from hurricane damage, water damage, flooding, the cost is so high that we're denying it for 30 or 40 years, but paying for it continuously because of all the damage to just from tornadoes to homes to climate. So the cost is there. But we're paying, right? And it's now unsustainable. So your thoughts on that, like in the sense of the money, and even with, like you said, the pipeline project, the amount of money that was, I don't lack of a better word, wasted, but investors, this is an investment game where people are making money off of this, and it needs to be called out for sure.
Absolutely. And there's a rising consciousness about this. You can see that Mountain Valley Pipeline actually just did something interesting. They made a move to buy offsets, carbon offsets. And they did it by saying that they wanted to cap the methane emissions at a coal plant. But here's the thing, just don't build Mountain Valley Pipeline. And don't play games, about this creative PR, because the truth is, when you talk about offsets, they have a role to play, but one principle is very clear, and that is this principle called additionality. You can't claim something as an offset that would be done anyway. And we know this needs to be done anyway. We need to capture that methane at those coal plants anyway. And if you listen to the infrastructure debate going on right now, and even what Senator Manchin is saying, as frustrating as it can be, you see that we're going to get there anyway. So they can't be claiming that as their offset. They need to just cancel the project.
Yes, I'm with you on that note. We're at time, and I love it. Cancel, everybody in the room, cancel the project. Because one thing that struck me, I'll just say it, is when you talked about the loss and trauma around climate change, and I think about the people in this flooding situation, I think about the suffering that goes around that. And so, at some point, maybe we would love to have you back to talk about what that looks like and how we do build resilience around this, and because it is anxiety provoking. What's happening for food insecurity and housing insecurity, this is only going to just get exponentially worse. So we're grateful for your voice in this and your continued work, especially in the spiritual kind of element of this. So thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. We'd love to come back and talk more about those dimensions of this situation too.
Yes, yes. We have to own that moral spot, that's for sure. And that's how we really maybe will make some big progress on that. And thank you to Delegate Sam Rasool for making the call. I appreciate all of us friends in the room, how we find each other. So thanks to Sam. And it's been a pleasure having you on. So thanks a lot. We'll see you again. And next up, we have Ronnie Levin. Ronnie, from scientist, water specialist, as we say. And Ronnie, Reading about you, 37 years at the EPA, what was that like? Just 37 years. You are the lead on water, lead. You wrote all the regulations, and you said in your words, 200 million children drinking better water because of you. Unmute yourself.
So not 200 million children, 200 million people.
Okay.
In the United States. So, well, some of those years at EPA were better than others, as you would imagine. I did walk in Trump. That was not the high point of EPA's history.
Yes, and today, we wanted to talk about is, and like with the pipeline, it's all about water. Water is life, water quality. Yeah, I would love to hear more about your feelings on water, and also when we talk about environmental justice and in your work, how you saw that play out in the field, like with Flint, Michigan crisis. Give us some of that background of what you have done and to call attention to water.
So I'm sure you and everybody else in the room knows that in the US and in the world right now, we have too much water in a lot of places and no water in other places. We have flooding in South Texas, in Virginia every year we've had it, Germany, while 90% of the Southwest is in a severe drought. And you also all know that it doesn't average out. Too much water in one place doesn't mean that it's okay to have not enough somewhere else. But actually what I want to talk to you about is much closer to home. I want to talk to you about US public drinking water. Again, you probably have heard multiple times that the US has the best drinking water in the world. Yes, but there are two big caveats here. The good news is that the US does have the largest network of good public water systems that delivers reliably safe water. The bad news, also that part of the good news is 80 to 90% of Americans have access to public drinking water, and that's huge in the world. The bad news is that the same inequity that we see in housing and in education is also clear in access to clean, reliable water in the United States. And that inequity has two sort of facets. Some small communities, mostly rural and low income, don't have any public water systems at all in the United States in 2021. Amazing. On the other hand, there are large urban populations, disproportionately minority communities, that get water that doesn't meet US standards. Flint, Michigan, Newark, New Jersey immediately come to mind, but in the last day, Clarksburg, West Virginia has come into the news. And all of those cities are coming in because of lead contamination issues, but those aren't the only health risks that they have. So this pattern that we're seeing, which is this inequity pattern, let's look at what some of the components are. Lead pipe replacement, getting rid of those lead pipes, occurs disproportionately in wealthy communities because those are the people who can afford to share the cost with the utility. Wealthy communities can also take higher water and sewer rates so that they have better wastewater plants, so that their adjacent lakes and rivers are cleaner. So that's an inequity. The water inequity is also part of some bigger problems that we know. So America's infrastructure is in terrible, deteriorating position. And that includes our drinking water. So it's not just roads and bridges and dams, it's also the water infrastructure. And they're all chronically underfunded. Just to give you a scale of this, there is a water main break in the United States every 2 minutes.
Oh my
And
God.
20% of the water that leaves a drinking water treatment plant never reaches a customer. They're all familiar problems. They're all familiar patterns. There's inequity, poor investment in civic and social infrastructure, and systemic racism. But the answer isn't to throw up our hands. As with climate change, we each have to do what we can. So I'm going to give you some to-dos. Find out about your water system. Virginia has 2,784 public water supplies. 90% of them have violations.
Wow.
90% of the water systems in Virginia. Find out what they are. Don't listen when the utility tells you how great the water is in the United States and how everybody has access to wonderful, excellent, clean, safe water. You wouldn't believe it if they told you that everybody in America can buy a house anywhere they want, or that all children get the same quality education. Don't believe it with the water either. Find out about the quality and the status of your drinking water infrastructure. What happened in Surfside, Florida is a wake-up call.
Right.
We are under-financing maintenance and asset management. Things are allowed to decay because nobody wants to bite the bullet and pay for it. And if you really, after you listen to your authorities, think that your water is really above reproach, go down the street and find out about their water system.
I love it, Ronnie. You've given us some walking, talking points to go take action. So I love it. Thank you so much. And, you know, it really is true. Whenever I'm out drinking out of the faucet, I'm thinking, is this water safe? And you just think it is. And you look at Flint and it's that that problem in this poor area, majority, minority, and it still, I don't think is fixed.
Right. So Flint is getting fixed, but there are a lot of places. Newark, New Jersey is not. And Clarksburg, West Virginia just got hit with one of the very few times that EPA has issued what is essentially a cease and desist imminent hazard order. That they must replace their lead pipes. Those lead pipes have been there for 100-something years. The day has come.
The day has come. I love it.
Right. But the issue is not only the inequity, but the baseline and our accepting what authorities tell us.
Exactly.
And the same badass attitude that we have towards everything else, you need to hold on to for water.
I love it. The badass water attitude. I'm in. So no, it's really true because water is life. And it's super serious. Somebody in the chat, it's Sonia Bollinger said, you know, our indigenous brothers and sisters, that's why they're fighting so hard. It's about clean water. So thank you, Ronnie. Thank you for your years as a scientist and your dedication. And with that, we will go over to our next awesome guest, Cassady Craighill, who is going to talk a little bit about the intersection of climate change and the need for energy rate reform. So how are you doing? Good to see you are you in the kitchen?
I'm not. I'm in our makeshift
you're in the bedroom
office here at home. Yeah.
Oh, well, great. Well, what a better place to relax and listen to all about climate. So Cassady, what is going on with this, the need for energy rate reform, and give the audience some idea and background.
Yeah, thank you so much to everybody for being here. It's such a beautiful Friday, and it's a very fun way to end the week on such an energetic and important note. I'm the Communications and Advocacy Director for Clean Virginia. My name is Cassady. We work to diminish utility monopoly influence in Virginia politics so that, one, we can transition to clean energy equitably and affordably, and two, so that we can benefit from a more ethical and a more fair state government that represents us and not big corporate special interests, and particularly in this case, utility monopoly interests like Dominion. So today I'm focusing specifically on why fair energy bills, affordable energy bills are absolutely critical to fighting the climate crisis. Today in Virginia, we pay some of the highest electricity bills in the country, the sixth highest, in fact. 75% of Virginia households have what we call an unaffordable, or experts call an unaffordable energy burden, which means they're really having to dedicate an outsized amount of their monthly income to just, powering their home. And these high prices have a really huge impact on families, particularly African American and Latino families, who are 3 times as likely to face a really tough decision between paying their rent or paying their electricity bill. And as we've been talking about, the Pacific Northwest and their really brutal heat wave right now, and we've seen tragically in other examples this year and in the past decade, access to safe shelter and being able to heat and cool your home is a matter of life and death, especially as we face more extreme weather, from heat waves to deep freezes. So not only are affordable bills important for transitioning to clean energy, it's also going to be really important as we're living in a new extreme climate normal that threatens people's daily lives if they can't keep their house cool or warm, or if they can't afford to stay in their house.
Right.
So we absolutely must tackle the energy burden crisis hand in hand with the climate crisis, so that people can power their homes with clean energy at a fair and affordable price. And as somebody mentioned in the chat, the clean energy is getting cheaper and cheaper every day. There is no reason for us to be paying so much for it. But unfortunately, Virginia's biggest electricity provider, Dominion, they benefit from a system of self-regulation. And the result is that we all end up paying more than we should, even for that clean energy. So there's 2 things we can do right now that don't want to end on a downer note. One, bear with me, it's a little bit wonky, but it's really important, especially to anybody, in Northern Virginia, Dominion Energy customers. And that is the rate case for Dominion Energy. What this is something that happens once every 3 years, where the top regulator for Dominion, the State Corporation Commission, fully reviews and potentially adjusts what we pay for electricity. This has not actually occurred due to Dominion-backed legislation since 2015. Right. Dominion is requesting a really unjust and massive profit increase that would have an impact on all of its customers, 2 out of 3 Virginians. The SCC has already denied a similar request that would have cost us over $1 billion. And this is particularly unjust right now because Dominion has already overcharged Virginians hundreds of millions every year for dirty energy projects, and now wants to charge even more for clean energy. We talked about the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. Right. Thankfully, that was canceled, but they would have charged us for that too. So the bottom line is that Virginians should enjoy access to clean energy at a fair price, not suffer from irresponsible price gouging. And so we are leading an aggressive push for public comments. And you can take action and put in a comment right now. I think I have some colleagues on the call from Clean Virginia that can drop that link in the chat. It takes just a second. And please send to family and friends. We're trying to really flood those comments. This is a really important issue, and it doesn't happen very often.
No, that's great. And I see Kendall is putting that in there for people to flood the zone, as we say. So
yeah, love it.
Was there one more call to action?
One more thing is just to support champions of utility rate reform in the General Assembly this November, but also all year round, and encourage them to do this work because it's really difficult. They're up against an army of Dominion lobbyists to fight for fair rates and to combat climate change in a way that leaves everyday Virginians like you and me with more power, not corporate monopolies. So Delegate Dan Helmer, Kathy Tran, Jay Jones, Chris Hurst, I know we talked about him earlier. These are all just really incredible champions, and they deserve our support. So thank you all much for having me and for all your hard work.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for supporting our work. And I know that we all care about climate, and this is, we have to take action together. So thank you so much for being here, and hopefully we will see you maybe in Harrisonburg, maybe in Virginia Beach when we go down there to kind of rally for candidates who are supporting clean energy, as we say. So thanks, Cassady. And with that, Green New Deal, Virginia, co-director Karen Campblin. How are you, Karen? It's always great to see you. Bring it. Let's talk about this Green New Deal and how we're going to make sure that this year is the year we really get super serious with it.
Wow, thank you so much for having me here today. And yes, Karen Campblin, the co-director for the Green New Deal Virginia Coalition, and thank you so much for having me here today. And now we're a little bit short on time, and a lot of the great information I was going to cover has been covered by some of our amazing speakers ahead of me. So I'm going to try and condense everything that I was going to say, but focus on the important things, particularly those that impact or about the coalition itself. So just a brief introduction about what the coalition is about. We're a diverse group of community leaders and over 90 organizations representing a wide swath of the different things that impact the quality of life and the socioeconomic advancement of Virginians. And that's people dealing with the economy, environment, social justice, health, you name it, we've got everybody at the table. And for the past 2 years, ever since delegates Sam Razul and Elizabeth Guzman brought the Green New Deal down to Virginia, we've been trying to get as many people at the table. If you imagine a 3-circle Venn diagram, one being the environment, one being social justice, one being the environment, you put it together, that shaded area with all the intersectionality, that's the Green New Deal Virginia Coalition. We believe that if you can't find the right solution unless you look at the root cause, and the only way that you can look at the root cause is through a diverse group of people working together and the intersectionality, making sure you've got everything that's going to impact, because we want to make sure that everybody has access to clean water, clean land, clean air, and most importantly, quality jobs. We don't want people to have to work three jobs just to pay their rent. So what we heard today is abundantly clear. We're on the verge of an irreversible climate failure. We're aware through personal experience. We've experienced extreme weather patterns, harsher hurricanes, shorter seasons, issues for our farmers because they're having not enough planting time. We've seen extreme temperatures where our farmers and workers are in trouble because of the extreme heat when they are working outside, or even our vulnerable populations such as the elderly and the youth and the unhoused that are at risk because of these extreme. And so we've even seen it in areas like Hampton Roads, who are experiencing an increase in the sea level rise of 14 inches ever since 1950s. And it's increasing at an accelerated rate. And we've heard about reports from over in the West Coast where they're actually experiencing such high temperatures, their infrastructure is literally melting. So we know we're getting to the point where change is needed, change is now, and it needs to happen fast, and it needs to happen in a very progressive manner. And then comes in the Green New Deal. What can you do? What we have to do, we have to think globally, and we have to act locally, and we have to be telling our elected officials and our decision makers that we need to transition to a clean, renewable, and non-extractive clean energy economy. And we should be questioning, why are we still invested in some of these projects that we heard so much about earlier today? Why are we still invested in fossil fuels? We need to demand that a stop. And Karenna, she was perfect. She was right. We need to stop the building and expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure now, not 2 years from now, not 5 years from now. We need it to end now. And while we experience a victory of canceling the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, yay to everybody, it was a huge team effort of over several years, we're still being threatened by either New York expanding infrastructure. And we talked about it briefly, the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And even though the Mountain Valley Pipeline has lost 2 of its 3 nationwide permits. And even though the EPA is saying, whoa, stop, this is not the project we need to be moving forward, the developers are still trying to push it. And like what we saw at Union Hill, they're also introducing the Lampert compressor station that is threatening a predominantly African-American community in Pennsylvania County. And we've got residents as well as the Pennsylvania County NAACP fighting against the permitting process for this project due to lack of transparency. Same thing we saw in Union Hill, lack of bringing in public input, and also it's threatening the property value, the economic value, as well as the health of the people who are located directly in there. NAACP National came out with a report, Fuels Across the Fence Line, in which it identified that frontline communities, which are predominantly people of color or Black communities, experiences higher level of respiratory illnesses and cancers. For instance, we have children that live within communities that are directly adjacent to these infrastructure experience over 101,000 sick days per year. Now add that to their academic experience, and then we're seeing not only are these fossil fuel infrastructure impacting the environment, but it's actually impacting so many other parts of our lifestyle, whether it's academic achievement for children, it's the property value, it's the economy, everything. So again, that's another reason why we need to think of things holistically and look at the intersection of those things. And so what can you do? How can you join us in this fight? You can definitely become a part of the coalition, right? Yes. And to find out more, you can join us online at greennewdealvirginia.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're on Twitter. And we're working with all of our different allies, such as Appalachian Voices, Sierra Club, and all of those things to continue our fight against the Mountain Valley Pipeline.
Yeah, awesome. You summed that up. So, I mean, like really, it's a 2-3 minute advocacy, just boom. So thank you. You did a beautiful job. And I this is where a lot of people don't understand the Green New Deal and the other side's talking points about it. So you really just nailed how this all works together. So thank you, Karen, for everything. And we will probably see you on the trail in Harrisonburg. I know some of the Green New Deal people are coming there, and in Virginia Beach, partnering with you and keeping this going, keeping the focus on climate. And with that, yeah. So
just wanted to say one teeny tiny thing, just really quickly. I'm going to be putting some action alerts into the chat where we're going to be talking about things that people can do to help us fight against the Mountain Valley Pipeline and the permitting process, as well as the Lampert compressor station, and how they can help us expand and talk about we have upcoming events where Advocacy 101 for the coalition, so you learn how to talk to your elected official, as well as to get your elected officials to declare a climate emergency in Virginia. So I will put all of that in the chat, and I look forward to talking to everybody in here.
Awesome, great. Oh yes, you are. Yes, great.
Yes, I'll be there.
Well, look, with that, we're going to see Randall Wolf coming up. Randall Wolf is our candidate's spotlight, and Yasmin Gore is here, and I would love to welcome her also on the screen. So glad you're here, Randall. And so tell us about where you're running for office, a little bit about yourself, and I'm so glad you're here today so everybody could support you.
Sure. I'm running in District 20, which is the Stanton, Waynesboro areas, Highland County, the Shenandoah Valley. Wonderful place to live. Recently, I celebrated my birthday with a 3-day, 130-mile bike ride across the district and over 2 mountain ridges, the Alleghenies and the Atlantic, or the Blue Ridge. Nice. And that was partly to promote an idea I have of a greenway that would go from West Virginia to the Atlantic, so the Allegheny to Atlantic Greenway. It's great, it's just great to be here. Thank you.
No, we'll be seeing you in Harrisonburg, and I know that you're in the seat that Jennifer Lewis ran in. I mean, the same seat that Jennifer Lewis ran in. I looked at the margin, and definitely there, the margins were closing. How do you feel about your race right now and what's happening out there?
Right. I feel really good about it. I'm out talking to people. I went to the Cattlemen's Association, Virginia Cattlemen's Association's meeting last Friday. I'm talking with Republicans, And I think with the dysfunction in the Republican Party, it opens up the door to an actual victory in this seat this year that's different than maybe different from past years. The good conversations, they're opening to listening to me. So
yes,
it's been good.
Well, we appreciate you stepping up to run. We'll see you in Harrisonburg. I hope, see you out there Friday at the brewery and in the morning at the Power Breakfast. And the mayor will be there opening up that. So we'll get to hear from you a couple minutes in person before we start our programming. So thank you. And Yasmin, is it Yasmin, correct?
It's Jasmine. How are you guys doing this morning?
It's so funny.
I like the flair.
Well, Jasmine, it's funny because it's one of those things, Jasmine, and yeah. I apologize for that. So Jasmine, how are you doing? Tell us about your race.
Oh, well, my morning's been hectic. I just messaged, I've been in a workforce meeting with the state this morning trying to address an immediate problem. So I'm glad I was able to jump on just in time.
Yes.
So I currently represent the city of Hopewell in Virginia. I served as former mayor up until January, but I am still a city councilor. I'm running for the 62nd district for the House of Delegates. That district represents part of Chesterfield County, part of Prince George, and now as of 2019, all of the city of Hopewell, which I am ecstatic about because that's definitely a game changer in terms of numbers. And I just want to make sure you wanted me to share a little bit more about myself. I don't want to make it too much of your time. Okay. So
you have about a minute. We're up and go ahead.
Thank you. I've served in office since I was 24 years old. So I've had over a decade of local government experience. As noted, I served as mayor, also vice mayor. I currently chair 2 boards. One is a gubernatorial appointment. It's for the Chesapeake Bay. So I represent elected officials from across 6 states from the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And I actually chair the workforce board I was just alluding to earlier, which represents 9 localities. I have a wide range of experience in terms of the initiatives that I've sponsored at the local level. Biggest thing is health, equity, and opportunities for youth, and clearly workforce development. I am a veteran. My parents are Army veterans. I'm a daughter of a veteran. Yeah, Army. And I have the honor of working for the Virginia Department of Veteran Services. So I'm also a state employee, which provides a unique perspective as well. So I will be on the call for the rest of the meeting. I don't want to take any more time, but anyone who wants to talk to me, please. I need some help in this race.
Stay for the after chat. That's where the real chat starts. But I looked at your website. I went to both your websites. First, they're awesome.
Thank you.
And your resume is quite amazing. And I went to look at your map to figure out Hopewell. And, these are sometimes so gerrymandered. You're looking at them. Yeah. Yours isn't too bad. But what is your thought about winning? Do you think you have a super great chance? I mean, it looks like
the numbers are there. Just getting the infrastructure in place has been really difficult because of one, everyone was focused on the primaries. And so when you're trying to get attention, then it was very hard. Then now the primary's over, you're like, hello, I'm still here. And then you're trying to get their attention. So infrastructure has been really hard. I'm actually taking off this week and the rest of next week to try to get the rest of my infrastructure in place. Numbers, yes. Support there, but infrastructure has been hard.
The infrastructure of your campaign, which we find, and we're going to wrap up the show, and please stay for the after chat. We'll talk about that. We have a lot of resources, people in this room. We can help you get started with that because we find that that's really candidates that step up and run. We should have an infrastructure. Democratic Party should be there also. We know this. We're pushing for that. We really are. And we're also pushing it, but we're providing it at the same time. So let's wrap up the show and just say to everybody first, Harrisonburg, let's just say, thank you to all the guests that are here today. Climate is so important. All this focus, there's so much focus and distraction everywhere, and our planet is really crying out. And we definitely have to make sure that we are doing everything to make sure that we help, as we say, Mother Earth. So we're glad you're here today. Tomorrow, tune in, 9 a.m. We're going to be kicking off our first July program for the Women's Summit with Monica Belton, talking about race and the humanities. And then we have virtual program all month long. So make sure you look at the website and you're signed up and ready to go. And then next week, of course, get a hotel room with us at the Madison, join us for a beer, meet Randall and other candidates out there, and just get into the culture of Harrisonburg. They have a farmer's market. It's beautiful. And it's good for Nova people to get out of our bubble and go outside of our district and meet other people and just not think that we know it all, because actually you'll find the most progressive thinking outside of Nova. It's really kind of exciting to visit these places. So we hope you join us there. With that, stay for the after chat, and we hope to see you next Friday. We will have the power lunch, and then we will also be at the bar at the Pale Fire Brewery in Harrisonburg. We have a great show next week. A lot of people will be in there about the school board, and I think we'll also have Tarina Keene from Narol, Virginia. So thank you, everybody. Have a great freaking Friday and a great weekend, and let's roll credits. Let's go.